So please join me in welcoming Joren.
Hello. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to all ask you, can you hear me okay? Is that microphone working? Yes. I would like to ask you all to think about money, to think how you're going to make money and how you're going to develop a business. While you're doing that, I'm going to show you a picture. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a famous Belgian. Now, it's a good thing that you were thinking of developing your business and making money. I wasn't. I had this to help me to think of something else. Because if I would have been thinking of this, if I would have been showing you this picture and thinking of how I was going to make money, I would be in trouble. I might end up in jail for a period between 3 months and 3 years, in Belgium that is. Or I might be liable for a fine of up to 100,000 euros. And if I did it twice in a day, those numbers would actually double. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have developed thought crime. When I show you a picture that is under copyright, I infringe somebody's copyright. It depends on what I think and how I behave, and therefore induce you to appreciate what I think, whether or not I have committed a crime and go to jail and lose my house. Just as well, I had Sarkozy and Merkel to prove that I was not thinking about developing my business. Now, why do we have thought crime? Why have we descended into the system of 1984 and made it a crime to think about certain things? The reason is to promote creativity. And we do it to promote the creativity, in this particular case, of this gentleman, who is the man who created Tintin. Unfortunately, he passed away almost 30 years ago. Hergé. He's a genius, and I'm sorry I have to use him in this particular way. But our system of copyright, ladies and gentlemen, is quite absurd. We criminalize thought and put it behind bars to promote the creativity of dead people. Does that work? No. This is the revenue of the music industry. It is corrected for purchasing power, so it's in real purchasing power. And there, that $71, that's Napster. And as you can see, things haven't improved since, and they won't. Their revenues are falling off a cliff. This is a graph that I picked up a couple of weeks ago on the distribution of a new game, Black Ops. It's a very popular game. And as you can imagine, the blue line are the purchases online and in shops. The red line is what is considered to be peer-to-peer sharing. Theft, if you want. Now, what does that show us? It shows that the copyright system is quite broken. Right? Now, when I studied law in England, they told me that English law is based on this concept that if something isn't broke, don't fix it. My statement to you today is that copyright is broken and that we do need to fix it. So how do we go about fixing it? Well, the first thing we have to do is figure out why it is broken. What is wrong with the system? The standard answer to that question is to say, it's all the fault of the pirates. These terrible people, they steal content, they copy without asking anybody. I think that's the wrong answer. The main reason why I think it's a wrong answer is because it's too easy. It is just saying they are doing something wrong, they are bad people. Let's blame them. Let's not question the system. Let's not look at what the problems of the system really are. Piracy is not the cause of the problem. It is the messenger that there is a problem. I think the real cause of the problem in copyright lies in the way copyright was set up. Does anybody here know what the founding text of modern copyright is? It's later than that, actually. It is the Berne Convention on international copyright, on the protection of literary and artistic work. Does anybody know what the date of that particular document is? Because this is the basis of our current today's copyright. This text is still in vogue. It was voted in the year 1886, after Christ. Now, that's 125 years ago. Let me tell you about the year 1886. This is the year when a Mr. Benz in Germany got his first patent granted on the car. It is also the year in which the Spanish Empire in its colony of Cuba abolished slavery. It is the year when, for the first time, Coca-Cola was brought onto the market. At the time, Coca-Cola contained cocaine. Today, that's a secret. We don't really know. It was also the year in which the linotype printing press was invented. And this is important because this is the machine that allowed mass production of newspapers very cheaply. This is the cause of Rupert Murdoch, if you want. Now, a couple of other things that happened in 1886, which is that the Dunlop tire was invented 2 years later, the washing machine was invented, and the Kodak camera was invented. And also, it was 4 years before the Sherman Act, the first antitrust legislation was enacted in the United States. Now, I'm going to put to you today that copyright is unfit for purpose for using it in an environment of open innovation. I've shown to you that the system as such is broken, but I'm also going to talk to you about 5 basic flaws that make copyright particularly inept to work in an open innovation environment. Why is that important? Well, you hear about patents, you hear about intellectual property rights. Copyright is the intellectual property right that protects almost all software and it protects all content. It is arguably much more important than patents in protecting intellectual property. 5 major flaws I'm going to tell you about today. The first one is that in 1886, copyright, creativity, and innovation were considered to be singular activities. They thought that it was done by one person alone. It is what the lawyers call a clean room environment. And it's a figment of the imagination. It doesn't exist. Nobody invents alone. Nobody creates alone. The Beatles, who I think could be said to be the best songwriters of the 20th century, have always openly stated that they were stealing. They weren't stealing, they were adapting, they were sharing. And it's a big flaw of copyright. It assumes that people act, think, and create alone. It's not true. The second flaw is that copyright focuses on the author rather than on the work. Again, that's wrong, because it is the work that we can see as something that we can protect. One of the negative effects of this is that copyright is defined in terms of years after the death of the author, which is why I showed you the picture of Hergé earlier. The third problem, and this is very important, is that copyright assumes that technology is static and irrelevant. Now, I've shown you the picture of the printing press. At that time, that machine made the cost of printing drop significantly. But I'm going to show you something else, which is today's technology. And I hope you can see it. It's not quite clear enough. This is an article that appeared in an American newspaper about American baseball, up there. This is a painting of a machine. And this is, you can't really see it very well, it's source code, the software. Now, by a show of hands, can you tell me who thinks that all of these 3 are protected by copyright? They're all recent. Who thinks they're all protected by copyright? Who thinks none of them are protected by copyright? Okay, I'll give you the answer. That one is not protected by copyright because it is written by a piece of software. No human intervened in the creation of that text. It's competed with a human-created text and was clearly declared the winner. Much better written by software, by a human author. Maybe it was because it was about baseball. I don't know American baseball very well. This is a self-portrait by a robot. This is a machine painting its own self-portrait. Got a whole clip about it. This is not protected by copyright because no human creativity is involved in the creation of this painting. This is protected by copyright because it is written by a human person. This is the emanation of the creativity and the personality of its author. That doesn't work. The idea that technology is neutral in terms of how copyright functions is wrong. This is the reason why people like myself, I still have a collection of vinyl records. I deeply resent the fact that I have to pay for the same record on CD and on MP3. And this is the cause. The fourth flaw in copyright that we have today is that it is assumed that copying is expensive. And I think we all know that copying has become very, very cheap. And the fifth flaw is that they thought that distribution channels could be controlled. This has to do with the fact that intellectual property rights today cover a large part of the economic value chain. I think that that is wrong, but it's also inappropriate for today's society. So if I give you 5 major flaws, can I come up with a solution? Well, first of all, I have to tell you, these are not the only flaws. There are other problems with copyright. So I can't give you a complete picture, but I was told that I could only talk for 10 minutes. So there you go. And also, can I give you a complete solution? No, probably not. There is no complete solution. But when we talk about an environment in which we work, where we want to do open innovation, and where we know that the copyright system does not function properly, what I can give you is a start of a solution, which I think addresses all of the flaws to a certain extent, and it can help to build that trust and to create those values that we can work with in terms of open innovation. And that solution is to register. It is my position that copyright can only survive really properly if we convert it into a system of registration. Registration should be cheap. It should be virtually free. If we can bombard Facebook with the pictures of our skiing holidays, surely we can upload our ideas in a way that will make them protectable. And whilst it is not really a solution to the whole thing, I think that the main point that I'm trying to make here today is that if we want to work with a system of trust in open innovation, trust is good, but we also need to be able to verify. And I never thought I was going to agree with Ronald Reagan, but here it is. Thank you. Ronald.